Welcome to the vlog. In today's video, we're gonna get the TT bike ready, talk a bit about waxing chains, a bit on nutrition, and then I'll give you an update as we're swimming, biking, and running. But first, we have to ride this TT bike. Challenge Canberra's in 2 weeks, and I still haven't ridden the thing. Haven't got acclimatized in that position yet. Haven't figured out if there's any mechanical things that need changing. So the domino to knock over is just to ride. And then we can go from there. Because once you start something, then just problems happen. And then this way I've got enough time to fix them before the event. I might just put all the bits on silently and I'll just subtitle it when we need to. You don't need to hear my voice. It's not necessary.
AliExpress special.
most frustrating thing just happened. See this GoPro, the DJI camera up there? I just suction mounted it to the cupboard. Actually, not to the cupboard, the ceiling here, but it's a little bit porous. And the camera fell off straight onto my scale, my Hario coffee scale. And then the top snapped off, like all these plastic connections are all sheared off. That scale, this scale, served me well for like at least 6 or 7 years. Water has been spilled on it. It's just taken all the abuse, and now I've like wrecked it. I think it's fixable. Just get a bit of super glue and super glue some of this stuff, these connections back on, but it's not the same, you know? I'm very annoyed at that. Just gotta put that past me. We are doing 3 hours of riding today, and I want to practice a little bit of the race nutrition strategy, which is doing about 90 grams of carbs per hour. So I'll talk you through what I got. Before, we're gonna have oat sachets with some extra oats, some honey, all the things, and we're looking at 80 grams of carbs before, with the oats, the honey, some biscuits, yada yada. And then during the 3 hour cycle, I got 258 grams of carbs on board. And the way I'm going to get that is Cliff Bar, Uncle Toby's Muesli Bar, GU Gel, just over 100 grams of snakes, and then in one bottle I'm going to put 40 grams of Powerade, and then for flavor, and 50 grams of sugar to get the extra carbs in. My TT bike only carries 2 bottles at the moment. It carries 750 or 800, whatever this is, and about a 500 ml Aero bottle. I'm going to only put carbs in this one. I'm going to put just water in this one. The reason is because if my blood sugars are really high, then I want to be able to drink and hydrate without getting more carbs in and making my sugars higher, because carbs make your sugars spike, and then exercise, no carbs, insulin, make your sugars drop back down. So that's going to be the strategy today. And because we're a couple weeks out from Canberra, I want to start practicing taking on a lot more carbs when I'm exercising, by a lot more. I usually take on around 60, and then in the race I'm going to be taking on about 90 to 100. So I want to practice that beforehand. And the bike is the buffet, so it's the perfect place to practice that. I'm moving my hands a lot today. Got the accordion hands going. I like to think my approach to sports nutrition is a pragmatic one, as in when it's most beneficial to use things like gels, like more expensive drink mix, not just Powerade, and all those products. I use it when it's most beneficial, when it's going to help me the most. But then when it's not, like in an endurance zone 2 training ride for only an hour or two, then I don't worry about it. I stick to more supermarket cost-friendly foods that I think taste better, still work well with my stomach, and do the job completely fine. But yeah, in a race, you're valuing things like nutrition, getting the maximum uptake to work with your stomach as well, convenience. Yeah, but why don't I use race nutrition on like a Tuesday 1.5 hour zone 2 ride? Well, it's because I'm usually topped up with nutrition. Like my nutrition off the bike or around training sessions is usually pretty good. So I come into a session well fueled, I feel well after, so I don't need to lean on like 16 gels to get me through a lot of the time, especially for the shorter sessions. Cost,
definitely an aspect there. I'm going to be exercising for life. I don't want to be paying way more for sports nutrition for life than I have to. I don't know where the time goes in the morning. Like, I've got to leave at 6:15 and I got out of bed at 5:15. So there's an hour to get ready and it's already like 6. It's like somehow when there's filming involved, like the time to do things just triples. Yeah, this is basically it. You just go in there. Oh, it's solidified a little bit. With the white sugar. The great thing about white sugar is for every gram of white sugar, it's exactly 1 gram of carbs. So 50 grams of sugar, 50 grams of carbs. It's just so straightforward an equation. Cool. And that's it. We've got to go already. Catch up. It's 6:15. We get to Soho by 6:30, and it's a 15-minute ride.
Can I get a little bit of footage? Can we go mine and then we can go? I'll get some footage of you and yours. Just landscape.
Yeah.
Me like drop facing flat. Yeah. Go nuts.
We are off the back of the bunch, just trying to spend some time in the TT position. And first ride in 6 months, this bike is terrible. It is horrible compared to riding a road bike. If you've never ridden a TT bike, let me explain why. Number one, the geometry of a TT bike is much more aggressive because you're optimizing for speed. So there's so many compromises in the name of speed. So the handling is very responsive, making the bike feel much less stable and safe in the bunch and just when you're riding it over bumps. And my back, because I'm in a more aero position. Okay, hold that thought. We're going down a hill and I don't feel comfortable holding the camera and talking to you down this hill. So we're gonna continue this in a second. I totally forgot what I was talking about, but another thing is it's really difficult to get all your ride nutrition in on this bike because of the position, and you really have to rely on putting most of your nutrition in your bottles because it's so hard to get stuff out of pockets and out of little storage areas on the bike and eat it while you're in the bunch. So yeah, nutrition in the drink mix and whatnot is key and is king. But I just don't have enough for these longer endurance rides with the front hydration and the mid. I need to put a rear bottle cage on the back of the saddle so I can just carry more and not rely on solid food as much. So the rim brakes are terrible. They're notoriously terrible on TT bikes. The rear brake virtually doesn't work because there's so many bends and stuff in the frame for the brake cable. It's just not a good design. And then the front brake, it's acceptable, but it's definitely not amazing. But who cares? In a TT or in a triathlon, you're trying to go faster, not hit the brakes. There's usually not that many twists and turns that you worry about your brakes too much. They just have to be just working. And just generally, it's not as fun. Road bike is so much better. Must be nice. Is that an espresso while you wait? While we wait?
This team is all alive again. Good team.
Thank you.
So insulting.
Would you consider a pour over a tea kind whiskey or something?
No, it's a batch brew with a strawberry infusion. Oh wow, this is such a great one. It's got like a passion fruit sort of vibe to it.
That is like summer in a shot glass.
I don't reckon you get this in Narragansett.
Well done.
It's not when you make budget, mate.
Just what do you have? 4 gels to go.
It's a trade-in. It's a trade-in. And half of that as well.
Oh boy, do have some thoughts after that ride. I'll start with the specs. 113 Ks in about 3.5 hours, but I don't feel like I've ridden for 3.5 hours. The whole way back from Sublime back to Sutherland, I was just basically coasting, so it was like not quality training, if that makes sense. And yeah, man, so many problems that have been uncovered. I'll run through them, but make some breakfast first so my mind is working good and I'm coherent. Hello, boy. Hey, buddy. Are you sleeping? Oh, I miss you too. I'm your emotional support human, aren't I, boy? You need pats to live. All right, I'm coming in. I'm coming in. All right, get out of here. Get out of here, you. I just want this to be in the vlog that it's Saturday the 2nd of November and you got a new Fuji camera this week and you've essentially sold most of your Canon gear. It's a big deal, moving from Canon to Fuji.
Whoa, you're very yellow.
Am I?
You look like a Simpson.
Take it. Oh my god. You delete that immediately.
I don't even know what it's on.
I look like Homer.
Velvia or something. You do look
It's
like
your
that.
white balance is cooked. That's what it is. Shit. Oh no. It's a bit messy.
You're beauty boy.
Today's post-ride meal is definitely just a mix of whatever I had going on in the fridge. Some sweet potato, a mushroom stuffed with lentils and some tomatoey sauce in there with cheese on top. It's like a pizza stuffed mushroom. Pretty good, I rate it. Ham and cheese omelette and then smothered in Cholula hot sauce. Not the hottest hot sauce, but one of the best tasting hot sauces. If you haven't tried it, would recommend. So during today's ride, a lot of sort of problems arose in my mind, and I've got some solutions already. Some of them I'm not even going to bother solving. I'm just going to leave them for the event, but I'll chat through them. I noticed my quads working in ways I haven't noticed in a while. Different position. Quads definitely take some getting used to. On the TT position, it's like feels like a different way to produce power. Almost. I noticed how tight my shoulders were from all the swimming, and I haven't been in that position in a long time. Makes sense. Those ones, I just got to spend more time on the TT bike. And if I have persisting issues, then I'll muck around with my position properly. I don't think I'm going to change much. We're only 2 weeks away from Challenge Canberra, so probably just leave that be. Just more time on the TT bike, and especially do some more efforts on the TT bike. Did I get through my nutrition? I did not get through my nutrition today. Today's ride was easier than expected, and I also found it really difficult to grab food and eat out of my pocket and then try and film the ride. I did not get through it all. I got through all the drink mix because it was easy and convenient. Some of the lollies that would be 150-ish grams of carbs. Not the ideal 270. But the ride wasn't that intense, so it was actually hard to take on nutrition when the ride's not intense. Like if you're not using it, yeah, it's difficult. It feels like a waste. Like, why am I eating so much? And then when we got back to Sutherland at 2.5 hours in, I had a sandwich there, a Reuben, bloody delicious. Such a good sandwich for $7.50. So I topped up there before doing another hour out at Kurnell. So fueling, I was fine, but did I take on more fueling to train for the race? No, that's a battle for next week. I also mentioned that I can't carry enough nutrition through the drink mix and water bottles because I don't have a rear bottle cage. I lost the bolts during the Cairns Ironman event, so I don't know if I'll get a new one or try and find new bolts for that one so I can put on a rear bottle cage, because I don't actually need it for the event. I just need it for training. So I haven't made up my mind whether I'm going to attach one of those or not. What do you guys think? The power meter wasn't working, so I'm just going to try plugging it into the wall charger instead of just the power bank battery charger, so we can get some power going, because that would be a nice thing to know if what numbers I can do on event day, so that I can have a good expectation of what power I'm going to put out. I know my numbers have improved since Cairns because my bike numbers are good on the road bike, but it's whether I can translate that power in the TT position on this bike in the next 2 weeks, and I need a power meter to know that. My Garmin mount was rattly. I think it's just a loose bolt, but something to notice, bolts coming loose during an event is just rubbish. It drills you mentally, like you can't think of anything else other than the rattly bolt, and you're worried that it's going to come loose and then, you're going to have to stop, which will slow your overall race time down. So that's a thing. I'll fix that. That's a pretty easy one. The tires, I definitely noticed a lack of comfort with the 25mm tubed tires versus my 30mm tubeless. And the tires are getting a bit old. I might replace them before the event. The last thing I would want is to get a flat that it could be avoided with just $80, $100 down at the bike shop for new tires. And the gears. So this is a recurring problem on this bike, but I have an MV carbon wheel set. On the back, it's a rim brake. It's super old, but the hub design there's a little bit of play in the hub. We've troubleshooted it at the bike shop, but there's still play. So the gears aren't working correctly. They'll skip every now and again, or the gear changes won't be as smooth, and it's wildly frustrating. I'm not sure if I'm just going to leave this one be and just deal with it for the next 2 weeks, because I can sort of get my efforts out and I just massage the gears nicely. I can get through it, but if I can get my hands on another carbon rim brake rear wheel, I will try and use one of those instead, because when your gears aren't working, it's frustrating as hell. Yeah. And they're the things I noticed for now. I'm going to finish this meal, and then we'll continue this when we go for a run tomorrow.
Hello. These ones are way better.
It's a long run day. Eat your oats.
Loki. He's just so cute.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad we can agree on something.
Chris.
Just frame you up. Rule of thirds. Okay. I like to do a little bit of a dynamic warm-up. Usually after a couple 100 meters of running, just get the calves, the hips, and the quads sort of feeling loose, feeling warm, feeling nice. But today we took Loki for a walk, so that was kind of my moving warm-up, so I can jump straight into this. I heard yesterday that like elite runners that do like 150, 200 Ks a week, just huge like kilometers per week, They'd have to do like an hour warm-up routine just to get out the door, just to put all their like niggles at bay. That just sounds way too much. One of the benefits of only running 3 days a week or just not doing so much running is you can kind of keep all that stuff at bay, and yeah, don't have to do so much prep just to get out the door. Oh, I don't know where we're gonna run today, but I'm thinking we do the same loop as last week, and that way I can see if my time has improved for the same distance, and it can give me a good indication of how my form is progressing coming into Canberra. Morning. Back on the topic of warming up, I think it's really dependent on what sort of session you're going into. It's like a threshold or VO2 session or a race start that you know has a fast start. It makes sense to be warm before you attack those style of efforts, but if it's like a Sunday long run or endurance, you can just ease right into that bad boy. Take it slow if you still feel like it's beneficial to stop for a stretch or a dynamic thingy, whatever, then do it, like I just did then. My shin splint is much better, but it was just sort of playing up there at the beginning of this run. Nursed it and see how it goes. Man, the jacarandas are just spectacular this time of year. So the run's going well. We did our first threshold session this week with some real intensity. It was 800s at the track, and it was tough. I was gassed by the end of it. I didn't finish the workout strong. I actually got slower towards the end, but that's okay, because I always notice the gains from those workouts if I've had enough recovery through the week. So today, I feel like I've just got more of a spring in my step. And I think it's from that session. So if you're in a place that you can safely add threshold work or VO2 work or some of that high intensity stuff to break through a plateau, would recommend. Any good training plan will have some level of periodization, meaning it gets easier to harder, then it gets easy again. So you can adapt to those harder times. And the way that we're increasing volume in my training plan or making it harder is through intensity. So the weekday runs on Tuesdays and Fridays, we've introduced some tempo and threshold work, and we've kept the weekend run to an hour at endurance place. We haven't made it any longer. We haven't made the total time of my training plan much longer, and I think that's so my body can recover from the shin splint that I'm going through. And we found that when we increase volume, total time on my training plan too much, I seem to run into like some injuries in that. So intensity is for now. But there are many different ways to increase volume in a training plan. You can go with total time. You can go with frequency, how many runs you do in a week, or you can do intensity. There's probably some more, but can't think of them right now. But intensity seems to be working for me right now. But the only way to find out what works for you is to just try it and see what problems you run into, or what gains you end up making. I don't know right and wrong answer. did this little guy land on the inside of my glasses? Put him down nicely. There we go. Oh, do yourself a favor. Let's try this. Shoulders, the lower back. Okay, that's enough of that. Heart rate went up. So uncomfortable. Alright. How long was that run? I think it was about 13 Ks. Oh wow, that's a massive change from last week. Last week's run was an hour and 5 minutes, so a bit longer. And I covered 12 kilometers and 200 meters, much less. And my average heart rate was 135, and today it was 134. And my average pace last week was 5:21 versus 4:41. That's a huge change. Do your efforts, kids. Wow. I'm sure there's other reasons as to why the pace was so different, but it was the same course, same perceived effort, good days and average days, you know? We're coming back. Pretty happy with that. It's time to wax some chains. I am sold on chain waxing. The pros far outweigh the cons for me. You might think the biggest benefit to waxing your chain is the performance benefits, but in reality, you don't really notice that on a day-to-day because it's a couple watts saved while you're riding. The number one thing that keeps me re-waxing my chains is the livability, in particular the cleanliness of the whole operation. So we're going to be re-waxing 4 chains today. I'm going to talk you through what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and maybe some of the pros and cons and what keeps me doing this process and some of the challenges I've had to overcome if you're thinking about waxing your chains and going down this rabbit hole. First thing we're going to do is take the used chains off the bike using these pliers. They're kind of thin enough to fit in between the links and they just remove quick links really easily. As my dirty chains build up, I keep them in a dirty bag, and then when I re-wax the chains, I put them in a clean bag. Pretty simple system, but it seems to have worked so far, so I'm sticking with it. Clean the chains. Now, they're not really dirty. All they've got on them is residual wax on the outside of the links and maybe some road silt and dust that has mixed with the wax on the outside of the chain. And to remove that, we can just pour boiling water over the chains and agitate them in the boiling water, and it removes most of that gunk. Before I put them through the boiling water, I'm just gonna feed the chains through this wire so that I can agitate them easily, and the chains are gonna be hot. So it's easier to do it now while the chains are cool. This wire also allows me to agitate them in the wax that we're gonna be putting them in and then hanging them up to dry. I'm using just wire I had lying around in my garage. Any wire will do that fits through the chains easily and is not so flexible that it deforms as you're agitating the chains or hanging them up. I found that wrapping the chains like this allows them to fit in the rice cooker in one go, so I don't have to repeat this whole process multiple times. Goes the hot water. Yeah, you can already see the water, getting that wax off the chains. The wax is separating off the chains, and that grit from the road is just coming free. The past couple times I've done this in the bike shop because I've had the luxury of you being able to use the workshop. And the way I've done it there is I've put the chains straight in the degreasing station, which just dissolves everything immediately. Give them a rinse with water and then just hit them with the compressed air. That is the gold standard. It's really quick, and that's how a bike store I think would do it. I've also known people that skip this step altogether and they just put their chains straight in the hot wax without cleaning them. Maybe they'll just give them a wipe. It's also an option too, but I want to keep my wax clean. I don't want any grit, road grit and silt and stuff to be in there, because I don't want that road grit to go in between the links and then potentially shorten the life of the chain, or it might reduce the performance benefits of waxing in the first place. This being the first time I'm trying the hot water method, the water is actually not that dirty, so it's got me thinking that the chains aren't that dirty in the first place. Like, is this even required? Okay, now I'm beginning to see why some people may skip this step or just give their chains a wipe down. The reason I'm drying the chain first before putting it in the hot wax is because if the water hits the hot wax, it might bubble, and then hot wax might go everywhere, and I don't want to burn myself. And I doubt you do too. And drop the chains in the wax. Oh, can I get 4 in there? Oh no. We will get this to work. So I like to give the chains a bit of an agitation in there, and that's to just get all that tungsten in the wax mixture, all up in those links. Maximum penetration to occur. Yes, I just said that. Because the goal here is to get the wax in between the links. And once that's achieved, there's no use keeping the chains in any longer. So once the chains are in and soaking, I turn my rice cooker off, because this is a cheap rice cooker and it has an on or off function essentially. But if you had something like a slow cooker, an Instapot, or Silka's own little waxing station, then you're gonna have much more control over temperature, which is a good thing, because if I left this on the whole time, then the wax will just boil, which I don't think Silka recommends either. So when do we pull the chains? Well, I think we're supposed to pull them at about 70 degrees. If you have the Silka's little station, then it will tell you there's 70 degrees there. Or if you have an infrared thermometer, then you can pull it exactly at 70 degrees. With a rice cooker, I just wait for a film to develop on the outside of the wax, which you can just see is starting to happen there. And the reason why we want to pull it when a film develops is because if the wax is too liquid, then when we pull the chains, then the wax will just seep out from between the links. And the whole goal of this process is to get the wax to stay in between the links. So we wait till a film is developed, which means the wax is a little bit more viscous, and the maximum amount of wax will be held between those links. And that's just starting to happen now. You can probably just see it on the GoPro camera. So essentially, it happens very quick. So I just pull it. Actually, I'm gonna give it another little dunk. So one of the problems with probably a cheap waxing station like this is that the temperature is not uniform. It might be a little bit hotter towards the bottom where the element is, and a little bit cooler on the surface, which is, you know, in the air. But I can see this all happening right about now, and I am just gonna hold these chains up for the excess wax to just drip off, and I'll try and give it a little shake. And once the dripping has stopped, I also like to get a screwdriver or just something sometimes and just help some of that excess wax that's dripping on the bottom of these links just to come loose and come free and fall back in that pot. And the reason for that is that it is the easiest it is right now to take off excess wax, because once the wax completely dries, then it's much more difficult to take these little bits of wax off the ends. So I would recommend doing it now. Or just don't do it at all. It's probably not completely necessary anyway. Just so I've found that it saves me time later down the track. As for a high-tech hanging station, mine is not very glamorous at all. It's just on the fence here. So the chains have dried and the links are pretty stiff. So before they go back on the bike or in my clean bag, I de-stiffen the links so that it can easily be attached back on the drivetrain. And there's a bunch of extra wax that you can see on the base of the chain. So I usually just de-stiffen them manually over the wax pot, so all the little bits go straight back in the wax pot. That's just going to be remelted. So I have seen people de-stiffen the links of the chain by basically grabbing the chain, wrapping it around a pole, and then just moving it about, and then that takes all the extra wax off the outside of the chain. I don't have any poles at my disposal, so I'm just going to do it manually, and we can just sort of do it together. And I can talk you through some of the hardships, pros and cons about waxing. Cleanliness is the reason I'm doing this whole thing and going through this whole process like a chump. Every week when I would degrease my chain right there with some rag and degreaser and then put some drip lube over it, specks of grease would get on my porous tiles, and my wife would really get annoyed because you can't clean it with a pressure cleaner easily, and essentially our tiles are pretty much stained with grease, so that's not good. And then we also keep the bikes in the entryway. Occasionally visitors would come past, or even myself, and our clothes would rub against the greasy chain. And it's completely their fault or my fault, but it's in my house and I can do something about it, so I did, and this is me doing something about it. Longevity is definitely another positive, because on Josh Portner's Silka chain waxing video, his chain is going on 3 years. Now that's a really long time. And what that means if I have 3 chains running, and is that I basically don't have to buy a chain for a very, very long time, making this a pretty cost-effective approach. Also sustainability, not burning through chains and using up resources and that sort of thing, if that's a thing that you care about. One thing that doesn't last a long time, according to Shimano, is the quick links. So the quick links are only rated for a single use, and I would not want a quick link to fail on me while I'm riding. So at about the 12-month mark, I'm just going to replace all the quick links. They're like $10 each. If I have 3 or 4 of those, $30, $40, and then it'll give me that peace of mind that hopefully that item doesn't fail when I'm out on the road, because that would be a pretty crappy crash to have if your knees went into the handlebar or you went over the bars just because your chain snapped in the middle of a sprint. That sounds terrible. And what are the negatives of this whole thing? Well, just getting to the point you see here today, like, it's tough because all your drivetrain has to be factory clean, no grease on anything whatsoever. And to do that, if your drivetrain is a mess, is a lot of work. It's almost not worth doing yourself and dirtying up your place. Like, a bike shop would be in a much better position to just do that effectively and efficiently with time and probably money. Or you could be at a stage where you're at the point where all your drivetrain needs to be replaced, and so you just take all the dirty bits off, maybe clean the jockey wheels and derailleur, and then just put all the new stuff on so it's factory clean. And you can get a product called a strip chip that Silka make so that you can remove the factory grease of your chain whilst you're waxing. So that is by far the easiest way to do it yourself if you don't want to do any cleaning. Another annoying thing is the ticking time bomb that is this process. I have 3 chains on rotation on my road bike and 1 on my TT bike, which I don't ride that often, but I just know that in 9 to 12 weeks, because each chain lasts me between 2 and 4 weeks, I just change them when they get noisy. I don't really track kilometers. I just know that this process is gonna have to take place again. So when I put that last chain on, I just know that, I'm gonna have to do this again. But then I know I don't have to think about it for another like 2-3 months. So that's pretty cool. The cost of the wax is kind of sucky. Like, 1 bag costs around $70, and that sounds kind of significant, but it's gonna last me a really long time. Like, I haven't even made a dent in this batch, and I've used it 3 or 4 times now. And what is the other annoying thing? Oh, and the wax flakes off. So when I ride my bike on the trainer, literally just here, there's a pool or puddle of wax flakes. At least they don't get into the tiles like grease does, so I just sweep them up with a dustpan, and that's it. Okay, the last step to do is to reattach the chain. The way I like to do it is to feed the chain through the jockey wheels first, pull it over the cassette, and then I like the chain to meet on the top half of the, what are they called? Chain stays. And the reason for that is so that the quick link can be on the top of the chain as opposed to down here. And so when I apply pressure to the chain to get the quick link to close on itself, then it's already in the right spot on the top side of the chain. Because if it's on the bottom, then the quick link would have to feed through the cassette and when there's lots of wax on the outside, it doesn't go over the jockey wheels very easily, and the chain usually snaps or like comes loose. So this way, that doesn't happen. So this is the quick link right here, and without a wax chain setup, you can usually hear it as it snaps into place, but with a wax setup, oh, that was it. You don't hear it as much, but you can still see it, and that quick link is now attached, and the chain is ready to go. It's normal that in the first couple rides, I've noticed the shifting is not amazing because there's still a bit of wax on the outside of the links, but after a ride, it's back to awesome shifting. And that is how it's done, guys. When I'm done with everything, the nice thing about a rice cooker is that the clean chains, the bits of wire, all fit back inside the rice cooker, back inside its little box, and we are good for the next couple of months. Let me know in the comments if you guys wax your chain, what you thought about my whole process, if you do anything differently, if you're even going to bother going down this rabbit hole after you've seen what you've seen. Thanks for watching. The next time we see each other might be at Challenge Canberra, as I don't think I'll have time to make another one of these before the event next weekend. See you there.
It says 26 on the entry, but
Wait, right.
yeah, it's just a
The
recommendation.
temperature goes busting.
It's never changed, regardless. It's burnt on the screen.
Chris has brought the video for me tonight. What do we got? The Osmo Action 4. Let's go. So let's have a quick look at the set. So we've got 4 50s and 4 100s, done very hard. It's all about the hard work tonight. And then, oh, here I am. Then we're going to have 600 fins, easy. And then we're doing those 4 50s and 4 100s again. Theme for the night is swim hard, not necessarily worrying about too much technical. Oh, it's been a while since I've done this for Chris. I had a little chat to him just then and said, "What do you want me to take, Chris? What do you want? What sort of shots do you want?" He said, "Oh, I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking about where I'm at with my swimming. So let's have a think about where we're at with swimming for Chris." Here he is, here now. Wave, that's it.
Oh, hey, coach.
Wave to your own camera. Okay, so first things first, we're probably over-rotating a little bit through the shoulders. So we got a really high recovery out of Chris. He's quite flexible and mobile through the thoracic region. A little bit low in the water, so we're trying to get him a little bit higher in the water to reduce drag. And if we can work the kick a little bit, get the body position up a little bit higher, get the rotation just dropping back a little bit, he'll be a little bit more powerful and a little less drag, because that's what it's all about. Creating power, propulsion, and reducing drag. So let's reduce the drag by getting the body position up, legs driving a little bit more. Let's increase the propulsion by reducing the rotation through the shoulders. Okay, so we're just talking with Chris about controlling the rotation. So controlling the rotation is about power and propulsion. So if we can control the amount of rotation, we're able to get the forearm set up into a really good power position to pull water. If you're over-rotating, you're spending more time getting into the position than you are in the position. Put it in. Come on, this is your last set for the night.